10, 9, 8.
Suddenly it reeks of hypocrisy in here.
Okay.
Welcome, alien invaders, the Catholic Church, and other denizens of the Matrix, to the 208th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 24th of May, 2017, and featuring Extremis, written by Stephen Moffat, and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and Matt Lucas as Nardle. I'm your host for this evening, Randy Ronson McCulloch, and with me is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Hey, yo, I'm Mary Poppins.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Peanut butter M&Ms.
And Thomas Fryhart.
Hey guys.
Fryhart or Fireheart?
Fireheart, I'm sorry. I'm trying to... I didn't actually have people's names on the intro. I should do that in the future. Things to put. Okay. Bill and Tim are not here presently. Both are currently working late. Bill will be here a bit later, or at least he says he will. He probably will. And Tim will be very, very late, if at all. So he has given us his thoughts in case he no-shows.
Okay.
On the podcast tonight, we have the news as usual, followed by... a little bit of time for Matt to discuss his thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, since he's actually seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron and I might spend a small chunk of time, a small bit of time, I should say, discussing the finale for Samurai Jack. And then, of course, we will go on to our review of Extremis.
And really quick, before we get started, Pepsi released a new drink, Pepsi Fire, a cinnamon-flavored Pepsi. About to chug.
All right.
All right.
So
beginning
while
with
Matt's
our
drinking,
birthdays.
while Matt's drinking, we'll go to the news.
Like a
All
cinnamon
right,
version
our-
of ginger ale. Okay.
Oh, that actually sounds pretty tasty.
Yeah, that's not
Okay.
half bad.
All right, so our first birthday for today is, it's for May 19th, is Michael Wisher, who is best known as Davros from Genesis of the Daleks. He would have been 82, but passed away in 1995 at the age of 60. In addition to Davros, Michael was one of the Dalek voices in the Pertwee era, and frequently appeared on the show as both human and alien.
That would make him Davros 1, by the way.
All right. For May 21st, we have Juliet Cowan, also known as Chrissy Jackson in the Sarah Jane Adventures Season 1, who turned 43. Juliet has just come off playing Rosa in the children's series Hank Zipser, based on the series of books written by Henry the Fonz Winkler. What she has on her plate this year, I don't know.
That is, of course, Chrissy, the lady that we don't like from the first season of Sarah Jane Adventures.
But that just means that she's a very good actor for that particular role. Because she had redeeming moments, at least.
Very few.
A few. But she had them.
I think we referred to her as even worse Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then on May 24th, we have Jim Broadbent, the 11th Doctor in The Curse of Fatal Death, turned 68. Jim recently did the new BBC miniseries based on Tolstoy's War and Peace and is going to be in the upcoming season of Game of Thrones.
Interesting.
That's going to be the final season of Game of Thrones, if I recall.
Apparently.
I need to catch up on that so badly.
Second to
All right.
last, I think.
And this has to be like the 9th or 10th BBC miniseries based on War and Peace. But
Oh yeah. All right. Also on the 24th of May was Graham Williams, producer 1977 to 1980, would have been 72 but died in 1990 at the age of 45. Taking over with Horror of Fang Rock and ending at the ill-fated Shada, Williams oversaw the Key to Time season and hired Douglas Adams as script editor. He was the last producer before Jonathan Nathan Turner took over.
Not bad producer. Just bad luck.
Pretty much after him, The Abyss. Yeah, a lot of his stuff. I mean, Key to Time season is pretty much considered one of the most classic seasons of Doctor Who ever. Unless, of course, you're counting like the Tom Baker, Sarah Jane era.
Mm-hmm.
But the season following that, the couple of seasons after that, were a little bit of a downhill crawl. Especially, I think the second season with Romana 2. And then Nathan Turner took over, and of course, things just went right down from there.
Mm.
But still, he's remembered fondly. He's
Very
remembered
much so.
fondly, but he's remembered as being not quite as good as Hinchcliffe, who was his predecessor.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with some people sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And work like that.
All right.
Anywho.
And for our second week in a row, we are regret to inform you that we do have a death in the Doctor Who family. This time it's from the classic writing corps. Eric Pringle has died at the age of 82. Eric Pringle is not the most prolific person for Doctor Who. He only wrote one story for Doctor Who, and that was the Fifth Doctor story, The Awakening. It was the only two-parter to feature in Peter Davidson's last season. He had been commissioned to write for Doctor Who before, but every time he had, it had been abandoned.
That's a shame.
So, yeah, he had worked in other things, a lot of radio adaptions, including The Wolves of Willoughby Chase and J.T. Priestley's The Good Companions. His last big work was in 2001, and that was the Radio 4-play Hymnus Paradisi about the life of composer Herbert Howells, and it won a Sony Award.
Ooh.
He also wrote novels. He wrote the children's novel Big George and its two sequels, Big George and the Seventh Night and Big George and the Winter King. So he was pretty much an all-around writer for, stage, screen, and radio, and books. And he will be missed.
He dabbled in a little bit of everything. Yeah. That's a shame.
And we do have another death, but we will talk about that after the Doctor Who news.
Because it's technically not Doctor Who related, but it's relatively important.
Yep. And so we'll move on to the current episode news.
All right. So we've got the overnight viewing figures are in for Extremis.
Oof.
So it received an audience of 4.16 million viewers. That's 22.7% of the total TV audience. That's an unofficial figure, by the way. It's up on last week's Oxygen, which received only 3.57 million, or 20%.
That's a over 500,000 jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to bet the cliffhanger was the cause of that?
Yeah. It was the third show of the day, with ITV's Britain's Got Talent taking the top spot with 9.13 million viewers, and that's 44.7% share of the total television audience. Second place was Pointless Celebrities, which had 4.52 million viewers, 28.9%.
Okay, so based on that, we can estimate that Great Britain has approximately 20 million viewers.
Mm-hmm. All right, so on to the press reactions for Extremis. Let me see here. So, the Radio Times has described this week's episode as ingenious, breathtaking television. once in a while a Doctor Who story comes along like no other you've seen before. So apparently they really enjoyed the episode. The Telegraph felt that this week's monsters were suitably scary. While the Mirror enjoyed the episode, it found the script complicated. Digital Spy, well, it's the Mirror, of course, it's going to hurt their little brains. Digital Spy agreed the plot was too difficult to follow, which I disagree with.
I highly disagree. It was
We'll
pretty
talk about
easy,
that
but
later.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Stop the trolling, guys.
IGN,
Not you guys. The Mirror.
The
Yeah.
Mirror and the Digital Spy, you guys can grow up. IGN.
The script was not a problem for IGN, which enjoyed the complex nature of the story. I agree. Den of Geek also enjoyed the story as a prelude to a multi-episode tale. It's not action-packed, it's not jammed with effects, and it doesn't need extensive explanations, so that's what they feel. AV Club called the episode great, experimental Doctor Who, and in particular praised the lead actor. Apparently they felt that Peter Capaldi was becoming perilously close to becoming an unqualified pick for favorite Doctor for some reason.
They must have really liked him in this one, apparently.
And that's weird because he's not been rating that high in these picks the recent Doctor polls, but that's because he's not young and handsome.
Oh, okay. I misread that. I thought the actual quote is Peter Capaldi is perilously close to becoming my unqualified pick for favorite Doctor. So I read that. I misread that, thinking that they didn't like Peter Capaldi and then suddenly liked him in this. But no, this just reinforced the fact that they enjoy him as the Doctor. So
I'm enjoying him a lot more than I did in Series 8.
Yes, he's really grown as the Doctor. I think he's really. I think
the layers have been adding on pretty quickly between
I'm
seasons.
I'm actually pretty sad that we're going to be saying goodbye to him. I wouldn't mind another season or two with him.
Screen Rant admired the premise of the story, and finally, Games Radar thought Doctor Who doesn't get much better than this. So
we'll see.
All right.
Yeah, hopefully, they are setting up for some pretty interesting stuff here. So.
Yep.
All right, Australian overnight ratings for Extremis and final ratings for Knock Knock are in. Extremis debuted in Australia, averaging 422,000 viewers in the 5 major capital series. That was the second highest rating ABC drama of the day and the 14th highest rating program of the day overall. These ratings don't include iView, regional, or time-shifted viewers. All right, so time-shifted viewers included in Knock Knock averaged 503,000 consolidated in the 5 major capital cities, 86,000 extra viewers on the 3rd highest time-shifted program of the day. The highest time-shifted program had 128,000 extra viewers, and the 11th highest rating program of the day overall. So those ratings, though, do not include iView or regional viewers. Just the time-shifted ones. Okay. And next up, we have the Audience Appreciation Index for Extremis. The number is 82.
Which is oddly
of course,
low.
Oddly low. I'm figuring that for some reason the plot went over some people's heads. In which case, these are people that, I mean, the plot was a bit cerebral.
It was a little bit cerebral, but it was very easy to catch on to, and apparently these people have not heard of the Da Vinci Code.
Well,
Which honestly is where a lot of the feel starts to come from for the episode, and then starts to gradually change into more something Doctor Who-ish.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
yeah. As reference, Casualty scored 85 for their highest score. So, all right.
They might have just had a harsh week. I don't know.
So, and then we got the BTS Gallery here.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes art gallery for Extremis has been posted to Cultbox, which looks pretty interesting. Hang on, I gotta blow my nose, guys.
Some design ideas for the robed undead creatures. We apparently at one point Missy was wearing a hat, probably due to the fact that they were filming in the rain or something.
Either that, or they were just trying different cuts on which looked good.
Oh, the guys behind her are also wearing what looked to be like raincoats or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that might have just been a run through.
Yeah, that might have been a quick run through, and they didn't want her hair to get wet and messy before they were actually done shooting.
Kind of glad it was that kind of look though, because that really did match the feel for the episode.
Mm-hmm.
That bleary, rainy day look.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they picked the perfect day to actually film that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So from current episodes, we go to previous episodes, and final ratings are in for Oxygen. And with from the Broadcasters Audience Research Board, or the BARB, they have given Oxygen an official rating of 5.27 million viewers. This is including everyone who watched the program within the first 7 days.
Ouch.
That puts it at 26
That
on their
fell-
list, almost off the top 30.
Yeah, that fell
And
at
the
least another
11th
spot or two.
And the 11th most watched on BBC One. This is the lowest the series has achieved since Survival in 1989.
Wow.
Ow.
The chart position, though, is higher than many of the episodes in Series 9. So,
Why, hello, Bill. How are you? I don't think Bill can talk yet.
apparently not.
Or he's still setting up and he just got in.
Yep. Well, he's in the channel. He's just not talking yet.
Waka, waka, waka.
There he is. Anyway, top of the ratings is Britain's Got Talent, which clocked in at 10.7 million, which, as we just discussed, is over 50% of the audience in the UK. Dear God. And in front of it is a whole bunch of Coronation Street, EastEnders, Emmerdale, the Eurovision Song Contest, which, you know, I expect, Grantchester, the Durrells, MasterChef, a bunch of stuff, basically. Oxygen got its ass kicked on the ratings. We're just going to put it at that. It's still, like I said, better than some of the Series 9 rating chart position, but it's still the lowest rating since Survival. That's actually slightly frightening.
I hope it doesn't slip any more than that.
Right.
That could be quite bad. Anyway.
Yep. So, they have Jamie Matheson has put on his personal website basically the original summary for the episode that became Oxygen. And it is quite different from what we saw on TV. It began with the summary: the TARDIS materializes in an elephant's graveyard for spaceships in the middle of nowhere, all floating, tumbling, inert in a loose clutter, all drawn there by the same distress call and then drained of energy. The crews are being picked off by creatures stalking through the wrecks, leaping through the vacuum between ships, heard scrabbling and scratching on the hull, and ended with some sort of queen creature nested in a nearby asteroid that they have to locate and destroy to free the ships and escape. That is definitely much different from what we saw.
Yeah, that sounds like a mixture of an episode from Red Dwarf. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I can't remember the name of it, but there's an episode in Red Dwarf where there was these mind-altering aliens that could hide themselves as other people that the victims knew, and then they would attack them to try and drain them and kill them. And then that last bit in particular sounds a little bit like a touch from Aliens.
Isn't that the polymorph episode from?
I think that's thinking of the polymorph.
No,
What I was
no.
thinking of-
It wasn't polymorph. I know what the polymorph is. No, this is a later episode than polymorph.
What I was thinking of is there's this mission in Star Trek Online where you approach this like satellite, and it basically nabs you in a tractor beam and starts draining the power from your ship.
I feel like there's at least one Star Trek episode that at least started that way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there has been.
Yeah, probably it has been.
But yeah, it feels like a mix between that. But yeah, the end part really did feel like Alien, and it did kind of have the slight. We mentioned last week it had the slight Aliens feel just by
By
Yeah.
proxy
What
of
the corporation
dingy
we're up to.
corporation
Yeah.
tunnels and the
Yeah.
Utani-esque corporation behind everything and so forth. Yeah.
But it'd have
Yeah.
been interesting to see what that plot would have actually been like had it made it through.
Yeah, that actually sounds a little bit more original, but they decided to suit zombies, so okay.
It might have just been cheaper.
Well, they did mention the
probably
fact that
cheaper.
the whole concept of limited oxygen was in the original script and went through all the way. But it looks
Okay.
like
at least
they,
that
they,
part is original.
they apparently just began elaborating on that until we got space zombies.
And again, probably due to budget limitations, maybe.
Quite possibly, or they just up that appeal to them on rewrites. Who knows?
yeah, or just something in the original script didn't work and they went a different direction with it.
Or maybe
All
they
right.
felt the alien references were getting too on the nose.
So, from the past, we look towards the future. And we have the publicity images for the upcoming pyramid at the end of the world.
Publicity
And in it-
still with a pyramid, so at least they got that going.
Is there a publicity still with the pyramid?
It's very first image,
Yep.
top left.
Oh yeah, that's obviously a setup for a.
Yeah, publicity image, like I said.
That pyramid's not there. That's a green screen.
Seems like multiple
And we
governments
do
are getting
see-
involved.
We do see the monks are coming back, and they look the same as they did in.
In
in
the
this
current
one.
episode, so those should still be
Yep.
solid.
It should be more solid this time because they won't be a projection.
They have a small man in a white suit taking care of flowers somewhere.
Is he taking care of flowers or just walking through them?
It looks like he's running machines that are taking care of them, so
It looks like he's in some kind of white hazmat biosuit.
yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like some sort of greenhouse, maybe dealing with toxic plants or something.
It's
Possibility.
quite possibly. And
I think that's a woman.
Military people.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, there's not a good shot of the person, so I'm just going to keep saying
Yeah,
person.
It's a little person as a woman.
Yeah.
A female little person, I should say.
I was going to say it's-
Erica. That's the character's name, is Erica.
Okay.
More
Oh yeah,
shots of
you
the
can see
undead
her.
guys.
You can see her much better. 4 rows down.
Probably
Yeah,
getting
she has like her own kind of portrait type thing, standing with her helmet off.
Yep.
Apparently, she's working for
Okay,
the
guys.
international.
I
like the-
saw
like
a better
CDC or
picture of
something.
face.
Definitely a scientific researcher style.
Mm-hmm.
There's also these weird neon glowing cord things, which I'm not sure what
Yep.
those are supposed to be.
Probably alien fiber optic style tech of some kind.
Okay, there she is without the helmet on. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's the other guy.
They're flying glowing kites, obviously.
Neon kites, the way of
Where
the
is
future.
where is this supposed to be happening? I'm wondering.
They seem to be all
'Cause-
staring at something on the outside, and then it's a whole bunch of stuff that seems to be on the inside.
Yeah,
we
but
don't seem to have
they're
an in between.
Yeah, there looks to be a whole bunch of Asian military officials, though.
I mean,
There seems to be a
the-
whole bunch
the
of Asian
blurb
military
mentions-
officials, and then they have a whole bunch of like British-looking ones too. So it's
The
a
blurb
hodgepodge.
mentions that it's the Chinese, Russian, and Americans, and and it also mentions the pyramid wasn't there before, so it's definitely not Egypt. I would wonder if it's somewhere like Korea, but then
Yeah,
again, the Chinese and Russian militaries can travel, so that would probably be a faulty assumption.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out where else would where would there be a location of interest? I mean, it could be like like Afghanistan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Afghanistan seems to be a possibility because it looks like there's a whole bunch of semi-rundown buildings in the background.
And it looks
And
kind
looks
of
kind of
deserty.
Middle Easty and deserty. Yeah.
Weren't there scenes like
or-
that in the Zygon Invasion? Where were they
There
set?
were a few.
They were set in like the.
They were set in Arizona,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and we're pretty sure this is not taking place in Arizona.
Yeah. Not with these.
Yeah, if the
particular
Chinese and
forces
Russian
involved.
militaries were in Arizona, that would be an interesting.
That would be a hell of an eyebrow raiser. What are you doing in Mecca? Mind your own business.
It looks like the doctor is looking at some kind of drum that's being filled with liquid, some kind of clear liquid. It's either water or maybe some other thing. But I can see the valves at the top.
Yeah, there's like some sort of valves at the top, and it's got some pumps hooked up to it. And
You say looking.
drumming.
Oh
like
yeah, that's right.
Well, you can sort of look with those glasses.
Standing by as it happens, maybe.
He's listening to.
I hear an ice cream maker.
But then again, who's ever known the doctor to listen?
That's what it looks like to me. Is I hear an ice cream maker.
I hope it's Rocky Road.
Other than that, we're not.
There's like people stuck in a thingy.
Stuck in a thingy.
No, not stuck in a thing. They're being held by the monks, with their backs arched up at the like they're in pain or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
it looks. I looked at that like thinking it was like some sort of like vampiric scene or something. Like they're damaging them in some way.
Yeah, it looks like their eyes are kind of bloodshot too. Like the guy in the middle, his eyes look bloodshot. It could just be like.
Oh, so maybe they're just injecting them with drugs.
Might be angle.
Hard to tell with the angle, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're almost looking like you're seeing the inside of his eyelid, and that'll always look bloodshot to you.
And they're in the same room with the long, stringy blue
glowy things in the background.
cords,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's inside the pyramid somehow.
Yeah. Where
Mm-hmm.
if that is
And they're
indeed
surrounded
an
by
actual thing.
monks, so.
Other than that, we really don't see much that we can understand in here.
Yeah.
Also, looks like the Secretary General is being touched by a monk in the same manner, but he doesn't seem to be in pain.
Well, that might be before it starts.
Yeah, it looks like the first person in particular, the one in the far left, is screaming. The others look rather stunned about whatever's going on.
I was talking about the white-haired guy. The white-haired.
Yeah, I know,
guy.
but that just might be taken a moment for. But really, there's not much else we can glean in these pictures.
Yeah, not much else we can really tell here.
Because they're all like from the same 3-4 scene.
Mhm.
So there's not much else we can figure out here. So
There's
Moving
no
right
pictures
along.
of Missy in a box.
Mm-mm.
all right. So also from Cultbox, Stephen Moffat had a few words to say about Pyramid. He was talking on the official Doctor Who Twitter account. He said, in episode 6, we saw that the Earth was about to come under attack from an alien life form that knows everything about all of human history and what resources it has to protect itself because it has simulated all that. The Doctor, blind, is about to encounter an enemy that can see more clearly than any he has ever encountered. So while that's not really very revealing, it does put where Stephen Moffat is writing this from. He is basically trying to give the monks a huge tactical advantage while putting the Doctor at his worst fielding advantage at what we've ever seen him at. I mean, even coming off a regeneration, he has enough sight and insight to see what's going on. And he's usually the person that sees all the little details. So to have him face an enemy that's basically been running simulation upon simulation to basically plan for this event and him to be functionally blind. Yeah.
And just that alone gives me a prediction of what happens in what I'm assuming this to be a 3-parter.
This is, from what I heard, a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I heard, they haven't come right out and said it, but it's 3 episodes with the monks and bookended by Missy, so that sounds like a 3-parter.
Missy, actually coming up. Yes.
I'm sorry, I always spoil the news.
Yes, you do.
You and your big mouth, Bill.
It is saying right up here is the fact that it is announced that Missy is going to be in more episodes of Doctor Who than we thought. Because initially she was billed as being in the episode today, the 6th episode.
She was billed. Because it's Bill's season.
Shut up, Bill. I know you've gotten here, but sit down and shut up. But apparently, according to the description for next week's episode, a week from Saturday's episode, Lie of the Land, she's also going to be in there, but we do not know the extent of her role. The synopsis reads as, the world is gripped by mass delusion and only Bill Potts can see the truth. When even the Doctor is fighting on the wrong side, it's up to Bill to convince the Time Lord that humanity is in deadly danger. And if she can't do that, she may just have to kill her best friend. The Doctor is played by Peter Capaldi, Bill by Pearl Mackie, and Nardole by Matt Lucas. Michelle Gomez guest stars as Missy. Now, that's a guest star, not a cameo appearance, but, that doesn't say much.
Yeah.
Just means it'll be longer than a few seconds. And she'll have lines.
So that's going to be, that's episode 8 of 12 this season, if I recall.
Yes.
So basically, it's going to be episode 8, 2 episodes of Something Else Without Missy, and then the 2-part finale.
And of those 2 episodes, one of them is Ice Warriors, and I can't remember what the other one is if we knew already.
Okay. Anywho.
Okay. So, that is all the news that we have for the episodes. We are going to move on to book news, of which we've gotten quite a bit of book news in the last week. Aaron.
Books. No one ever reads enough. So, there is a new hardback book coming out for National Poetry Day. This is, of course, Doctor Who centric. It's Doctor Who Now We Are 600. It's the first collection of Time Lord verse. Let me see here, and then it's going to be published via HarperCollins here for North America. It's going to be a humorous riff on the classic Now We Are 6. This is a collection of charming, funny, and whimsical poems that celebrate the joys, sorrows, and wonders of Time Lord life. So that sounds kind of interesting, actually.
Illustrated by Russell T. Davies.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know he doodled.
Apparently, he's been doodling since he's a kid.
Yep.
Drawing little Daleks on his school textbook or on his school notepad and stuff.
I wonder if
I
he
would have loved
was
to
5
see
years
his
old running
school
around
books.
shouting "Exterminate."
Probably.
Russell was probably running around the house with an egg whisk in one hand and a plunger in the other.
I can fly upstairs. That's not right. Yes, I can.
Or when he wasn't doing that, he was stomping around the playground in a certain cyber lumber.
Shouting excellent.
So Now We Are 600 will be due out on September 14th for those looking for it, by the way.
Sounds amusing.
Definitely worth taking a look at. All right, up next we have the new Lethbridge Stewart novel, The Runaway Bomb. Looks pretty interesting. Man, they're just really pumping these out.
They do. I mean, I swear we have a new announcement every other week.
Just about. So it's like about 2 short novels every month.
There's somebody that they're
Actually-
just keeping in a closet and they're throwing, a bacon sandwich and some coffee in every couple hours.
Actually, this isn't a novel. It is the second of the free Lethbridge Stewart short stories of 2017. It's going to be accompanying this month's novel release, Night of the Intelligence.
Yeah, that's little things like this they also add in there just for extras.
Yeah, in case you don't, get enough reading in. I wish I had time to read all these books.
He's more left than Stuart.
Alright, Runaway Bomb will be sent out free to everybody who purchases, includes any bundles or subscription featuring this month's release, Night of the Intelligence by Andy Frankham Allen. The short story itself is, let me see if I can read it. Okay. Alright, I believe it's Nick Walters. So basically, it's Sergeant Bell and Special Corporal Stevens originally had bigger roles in Mutually Assured Domination, which is a previous story, so I left at the chance of fleshing out the characters a bit more. Okay.
Wow, there's not actually a plot description.
No, there isn't.
I hear the name, and my brain goes to two places simultaneously, and it makes it really wrong.
It's basically a short story about a couple of side characters that were mentioned in Mutually Assured Domination.
So basically, Lethbridge Stewart's making its own Jago and Lightfoot. Got it.
Yeah.
But I hear the name, and I think a combination of The Runaway Bride and the old Get Smart movie, The Nude Bomb.
So wait, they strap a nude bomb to Catherine Tate?
Yeah, picture that.
Takai
right,
blinks, looks at the
move on.
camera, and goes, "Oh my!"
All right, so
There's something on your back.
And it seems to be ticking. Oh my!
all right, the Titan summer event, The Lost Dimension, should be releasing here soon. It's going to be, of course, Titan Comics. It's going to be this year's summer. Will feature a multi-Doctor storyline, a Doctor Who: The Lost Dimension. It's comprised of 8 chapters over 3 months. Will cross all 4 ongoing series featuring the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th Doctors. Wow, that's a lot of Doctor Who comics. I never realized that there were that many ongoing series for Doctor Who. I thought they were all one.
Oh no, yeah, they've had those ongoing ranges, and the War Doctor and the Third Doctor have each had miniseries.
Wow. Like, I've seen, like, Doctor Who comics and Doctor Who magazine every once in a while, but geez. All right, so it's going to be like one of your big like Marvel or DC events. Basically, they're doing the same thing with Doctor Who comics now. So they'll be playing. Each of the Doctors are going to be playing their part in battling the Void. And then this event is going to be a kind of a prelude to the Doctor Who Comics Day on Saturday, September 2nd, 2017, and will continue in the 9th Doctor special that same week.
The Void. Is that anything like the black hole?
No, I was wondering if it was anything like the Noid. Anybody remember the Noid? Avoid the Noid?
Yes, I know the Noid, but the Noid has nothing to do with a void.
Except they rhyme.
Again, black hole.
Yeah, I guess I never realized how complex, the layout for Doctor Who comics had become. I thought it was all just, one big storyline or tie-in.
It started with the 10th and 11th, and then they started the 9th as a miniseries, and that got really popular, so they kept it. And then Matt Smith regenerated, so they added a new range.
And so when Capaldi steps down, they will have the new guy will get his own comic book line too.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's
unless one of their sales starts to dip, in which case he'll lose one. But
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to worry about that. Is the fact that how much are people willing to fork over in comics?
Comics, and if you're a Doctor Who fan and you want to buy all the Doctor Who things, you're
let me put it this way. There are people who literally buy every Doctor Who disc that Big Finish puts out.
Yeah,
and have been doing so for a decade.
I'm not
so
saying that.
There's a lot of deep pockets in the Doctor Who fandom.
I know that, but I'm saying you eventually do reach your saturation level.
Yes.
I remember, like, in the 90s, I was a huge X-Men fan. But when I started, there were 5 titles. X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Excalibur, X-Force, and X-Factor. And then they added Generation X, and then they added X-Men, like the X-Men Mark Zero. They kept adding title upon title upon title upon title. And it was all getting to the point that I had to start buying 20 comics a month.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're just like, is my enjoyment that I'm getting out of this worth the amount I'm buying in comics?
I even faced that when I was buying ElfQuest comics, because ElfQuest actually split off into, I believe, at least 2 or 3 different comics, and then a 4th one that took place in the future.
That was me when I was trying to keep up with Green Lantern comics, and it was I was trying to keep up with 5 titles a month, and eventually I dropped them all.
Wow, and that's just Green Lantern.
But and the thing is, like I said, you eventually get to the point, and the art and the saturation works on both ends too, because every title needs to have a writer, an inker, a artist, and inker, and a colorist. And that means they have to pay them all, and eventually they hit by financial saturation level.
The question
where they
here
have to buy, where they cheap out.
I'm wondering how much crossover appeal each Doctor has, because I imagine 9th and 10th Doctors probably share a lot of their fans. 11th Doctor kind of has his own set of fans, although there is obviously some overlap. 12th Doctor is the current, so it's probably going to overlap with, but I'm wondering how many people just subscribe to one of those 4 series,
and then
or to 2 of them. I don't think there are as many people that subscribe to all 4.
Well, I'm just stating that that's going to be what happens is eventually they'll hit saturation point, or one of them will dip to be canceled.
Yeah. Are we going to see the Doctor Who comics become like Big Finish?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
Their quality has been varying quite a bit, to be honest, from what we've seen before.
Their quality has been really, really hit or miss. More miss than hit.
Sadly.
Yep. All right. So moving on from the comics, I'm actually surprised that got put on our news, because we don't usually report comics.
We usually report the multi-Doctor specials.
Yeah, it's a special, and it's a multi-Doctor, so that's going to get attention.
Okay. So moving on.
All right.
We got a couple of things from Big Finish. First one, we've been talking for months. We mentioned it, I think, just last week. It is finally out. Unit Assemble has finally hit release in Big Finish as of yesterday. This is the series that has Katie Manning as Joe Grant, Richard Franklin as Mike Yates, John Levine as Benton.
For the first time but the first
time in a long time in Big Finish.
And apparently he wants to do more.
Awesome. And teaming up with Gemma Redgrave and Ingrid Oliver from the new unit team to have a big combined unit cast.
I think Nick Briggs just has some really good drugs. Just hooks people on.
We covered the trailer last week, so we're not going to talk about that again. It is available for CD or download for £20 in either format. That's a little different. All right. So that's that one. Also, we have news of an upcoming release, and that is the Adventures of Bernice Summerfield Volume 4, or just 4, Ruler of the Universe, is released in September, starring Lisa Bowerman and David Warner as the Unbound Doctor, as she has apparently been shunted sideways in the universe into his Unbound universe.
I wonder if there's an Unbound Brax.
We have 4 stories in this. The City and the Clock by Guy Adams. Bernice is on an archaeological dig for the mythical apocalypse clock. Can it really be the key to saving the universe? The Ghosts of the Planet Have Other Ideas. Asking for a Friend by James Goss. Vast wars are raging across the stars, planets are dying, and the Doctor is sat on a psychiatrist's couch. What's it like to be the Doctor's therapist? I don't know. You should probably ask Sigmund Freud. Truant by Guy Adams. The president of the universe has run away. Bernice has to hunt him down, but he's too busy having fun. Oh my god. Bernice has to find Zaphod Beaglebrox. Warlords, impossible escape, sinister plan. The Doctor's on an adventure. Ah, okay. Apparently the Doctor has become president of the universe, in this universe. The True Savior of the Universe by James Goss. Bernice finds that time has run out for the Doctor and the universe. Is this really the end of everything? Help is on the way from an unlikely quarter. This is pre-orderable at the moment for £20 download, $23 on CD. And these prices will be frozen until the general release at the end of October, when they become £25 and $30.
Get them now.
And that is all the Big Finish news we had. Now, for the one piece of general news that we had, Aaron, we mentioned a little bit about it earlier.
Well, unfortunately, not too long ago. What?
We don't hear you, Aaron. You're like really quiet.
Oh, sorry. I was doing it in a minute. All right. Well, unfortunately, Roger Moore, also known as one of the more popular 007 actors of the time, has passed away at the age of 89.
Yeah, Pete, you might remember Roger Moore as being probably the most prolific of the Bond actors. And from probably some of the more famous Bond films. Films such as Octopussy, which, you know, everybody knows that particular Bond film. That was one of Roger Moore's. A View to a Kill, considered to be one of the best Bond films ever made, was basically his premiere. So he was basically the James Bond of the 70s and the early 80s. He is also, I believe, the first James Bond actor to die. Because, you know, Sean Connery's still kicking it.
Sean Connery will never die. I'm immortal. You have to remove my head first, Highlander.
Even if you cut off his head, he'll come back if you pray hard enough.
Apparently. Timothy Dalton's still around, and we still want him to be more to do more wrestling.
Yes,
and nobody gives a shit about George Lazenby.
What about Pierce Brosnan?
He's still around.
Didn't he play?
He's
007? Yeah.
Yes, but he played it much later. He was like 90s Bond.
He was 90s Bond with really bad CGI effects.
And some really crappy video games, and a couple of good ones, if I recall.
Yeah, the later video games that he was a part of are actually really good.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think I heard good things about the N64 GoldenEye, actually.
The N64 GoldenEye, yeah. That's a game that keeps coming back, apparently. They actually have a Source Engine version of it.
But yes, so we lost Roger Moore. So he's, to many people, still one of the mental images they think of when they hear the name Bond. James Bond. He was the one of the previous Bonds. You look at Lazenby and you look at Connery, and they're both people you don't want to meet in a dark alley. You meet Roger Moore in a dark alley, and you want to go down to the pub with him for a pint, you know?
Oh no! When Sean Connery first took the role, he was very charismatic at the time. I'm sure since he aged into
he was very charismatic, but he also had that dangerous air about him.
Yeah, he kind of grew into that dangerous air, though. I think he didn't initially have that.
But Roger Moore was kind of the George Clooney of James Bond. Anyway, that is all our news that we have this evening. We are going to move on to our Geek Talk section, because I believe Matt has finally, of The Last of Us, gone to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh.
Welcome to the fold, Matt.
Yeah, and actually...
Now all the stuff we were biting our tongues about last week is finally okay.
I just realized I've been actually running on 4G. Not sure how long that's been going on. Oops. Also, we got a message that our 4G is about to run out. Well, yeah, dang it. I did not realize when that happened. Anyway, getting away from that, that'll be an issue to come up later. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh, so I will say that I have put up the first impressions we had of that, and the first impressions have been great from the three of us that went. We all think that's been the best Marvel movie made thus far. Fantastic soundtrack. The Pac-Man reference that kind of got sort of brought up throughout and then paid off in the end was amazing. Hey everybody, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, that's why we keep saying that they need to cast him as just a cameo appearance in the Mary Poppins Returns movie next year. Just because of that reference. What'd you think of suddenly my brain just dies. One of my favorite freaking actors too.
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell, yes.
Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell was fantastic in the movie. Also, by the way, I just saw something recently about his role in it too. You saw like a younger version of him at the beginning of the movie. That was like 95% makeup, apparently.
Yeah, I was telling Aaron that coming out of the theater, that they basically were planning on doing the same shit that they did with Rogue One and using CGI to de-age him, but when they got to look at the before pictures and him, the makeup guy stood up and said, "I could do this. I can do this almost entirely with practical."
Do it.
Yeah. I think they might have had a little bit of smoothing, but it's mostly the same touch-up stuff that they do for a lot of supermodels and stuff.
Yeah, essentially it was like really basic, easy fixes if they need anything.
Yeah, it was a mix of makeup and a bit of CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to hide the seams, essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that they did that largely with practical, and it looks better than the stuff they did in Rogue One.
As good, if not better, yes.
It was unbelievably cool, and part of it's because Kurt Russell apparently has aged really well.
Oh yeah, he has aged amazingly well. And by the way, even for a small role, that man can act his way out of anything.
I freaking love Kurt Russell. I have never run into a Kurt Russell movie I didn't like. Even
never run into a Kurt Russell movie that I didn't like, as long as he was there and doing something that he obviously was enjoying himself doing.
Even when it's a stupid movie, I still like him in the movie. It's in the same way. I mean, even Captain Ron, which I think is one of the dumbest things ever, I still like him in it.
That was the one with the family, right?
Yes.
I saw the end of that one.
But, I mean, some of his movies, God, the Escape From movies, I freaking adore.
The Escape movies, Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China is amazing. By the way, you know that started out as a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai, don't you?
I didn't know that.
No, that's not what that's not the story that John Carpenter gives. Apparently, it was supposed to be an Old West movie originally.
It's not what I read.
And then it kept getting edited and edited and edited.
That was kind of what I heard, only it started as a sequel. That's the same thing I heard, but only it started as a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai. So.
Weird.
I'm wondering if two different people have two different stories they recall for it.
Maybe.
Or if there were two different movie concepts and they got fused.
That's also a possibility. Maybe at some point the two different scripts got fused together, and each party doesn't realize that.
It's quite possible. Either way, Kurt Russell's amazing. I loved everybody. We got to see a lot more of Karen Gillan.
A lot more Karen Gillan, and she got to really flesh out the character a lot more.
Yep.
I absolutely love the family dynamic that officially comes much more clear in this one too. And you do have legit feelings for a blue-skinned man that whistles to send an arrow flying around as a weapon.
Yes.
And now his, well, as he calls it, Finn in the movie looks more like his actual comic counterpart.
Yes, for this particular movie, yes, it looked actually more like the character design now.
And Tiny Groot. Oh my God.
Apparently, Chris, whatever, once in a while see the baby Tiny Groot prop they had on set and go, "Oh God damn it, he's going to steal every scene, isn't he?"
He did too.
That's a great way to talk about movies from now on. Chris whatever. Pretty much every movie we can talk about is starring Chris whatever.
I'm Chris Pine. I'm not the Chris.
Which Chris is it this
Chris
week?
Pine, Chris Pratt.
No, that was the Saturday Night Live a few weeks back. I'm Chris Pine. I'm not this other Chris that's not Chris Pine.
Chris Hemsworth.
I'm not Chris Hemsworth.
It's a good thing Star Trek is not part of the MCU, or we'd have Evans, Hemsworth, Pine, Pratt, and
Give them
whichever one I'm
time.
forgetting all in one movie.
Give them time. Give Marvel a chance to pop out some more Star Wars.
Also, the multiple different
Watch they
extras
just turn
at the
around
end.
and be like, oh, by the way, he's going to play Adam Warlock or something.
I'd be fine with this.
All right. By the way, Randy, you are wrong about Big Trouble being a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai.
Ha ha.
No, I didn't say it was. I said it started production as.
Nope.
Nope.
That is not true.
Starting production? Heck no.
That was something that was miswritten on Internet Movie Database.
Somebody
The
messed it up on
original-
Internet movie database.
So it was in the trivia section, but it was wrong.
So basically, and then like the actual information comes from Starlog magazine 1986 is where the real information, which is exactly what Matt was talking about, it being a Western.
Supposed to be a Western. I think it's supposed to have like a vampire or something else. No, it wasn't a vampire. It was, I think some of the Chinese mythology was already in there and as part of this Western, and then it just kept evolving.
I was going to say
Anyway.
Western with vampires. You're thinking From Dusk Till Dawn.
Anyway, we also wanted to talk about something else before we went to our 5-minute challenge here, and that is the fact that Aaron and I saw the final episode of the 5th season of Samurai Jack, which we have talked about a bit on this. But this is the last time, guys, I promise, because it's ended now. It's over. The entire series is done. It's in the can. It's aired. Next week we'll talk about the...
It was a good ending.
It was bittersweet. It really was. I was so afraid that Gendy Tartakovsky was going to cop out. That he was going to go for the American ultra happy ending.
Like every great movie ends with a wedding.
With a wedding and everything, and they all lived happily ever after. But no, you got to remember, Gendy Tartakovsky was an anime fan. And if it's one thing anime teaches you, it's that all victories require sacrifice. And that was definitely the case here. But he lampshaded it originally, where you thought he was going for the ultra happy end. And then the bitter part of it came in, and it was sad, but it did end on a little high note of hope. So, bitter,
William
very.
Shatner live tweeting Arrow. Now I have to turn off Twitter.
Damn it.
But so it was a very bittersweet, very fitting ending. The only thing I can say about this season is I wish he had made a little more of it. I wish he could have fleshed out a little more, taken a little bit to pad out some space between some of the episodes, just so that you had more of a feeling of time passing. Because he did this all in 10 episodes.
At the
And
same
it
time,
could've
it
been-
is supposed to be kind of a mini series, and you are supposed to do this in a limited amount of time.
Yes, I know. I could have seen it as though a 13. I could have seen it as a 13 to give the finale an extra episode to pad it a little more, because some people did complain it felt a bit rushed. It felt a bit hectic, and there should have been a little more time between that. You got the two main characters traveling together, just to flesh out their relationship a little more. But it's still probably it is definitely one of the best things that Cartoon Network has put out in a long time. It is definitely one of the high quality works, and it's going to go down as one of Genndy Tartakovsky's high notes. And this is a man that's made his career making high notes. I mean, this is the man who brought us Dexter's Lab.
Mm-hmm.
And that was revolutionary for its time.
Dexter's Lab, the original Samurai Jack. What else did he used to do back then?
He did the original Star Wars Clone Wars miniseries.
Okay, the Clone Wars miniseries.
He worked with the guy that made the Powerpuff Girls.
Okay.
He was signed up to direct the Power of the Dark Crystal sequel.
Before that
the
got
original
canned.
Dark Crystal. Yeah.
But yeah, he has done a lot in the cartoon industry. And this, I think, is kind of his magnum opus.
Mm-hmm. It was okay. I mean, I don't know. It could have gone off in a few other directions that I don't know. It does involve time travel. He does go back to the past again, or he does get back to the past.
I was trying not to spoiler it
now, Aaron.
Well, yeah. So what? I thought he would go even further back to the past and try to fight Aku at its source.
Yeah, the problem
along
with that,
the other celestial beings and stuff. I thought that would be kind of cool, but
that would actually wind up crossing his own timeline, which is bad.
Well,
Don't cross
that's what
the
happened
streams.
before anyway.
No, that's not what happened before. He got shot into the future.
Nah, whatever.
That's not crossing your own timeline. That's skipping ahead.
Don't you hate it when you get shot into the future?
Nah. I don't know. It was okay. It's done. It's over.
All right. So, moving on to the 5-minute challenge. Who is up for it tonight?
Ready. I just wish I would have known that we were still low on the hours. Anyway, I did it 2 weeks ago, and I think Tim did last week. No, it wasn't Tim. It was Fireheart.
Yeah.
And Tim's not here, so he's not doing it. Bill probably hasn't had time to get prepared. So I think it's probably going to be me.
So I'm going to say it's either you or Aaron then. So are you ready, Randy?
Yes.
All right.
Just give me a countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1, start.
We pick off virtually where we left off the last time. In fact, with a little bit of a flashback reminding us, yes, the Doctor is blind and is remaining that way. And then we get a shot of him sitting by the doorway of the vault that has been with us all season, and he gets an email by something called Extremis. Flash forward to him standing at a podium where he usually gives his lectures, and he is approached by the Catholic Church in the embodiment of the Pope himself. And they have a request for him. They're pleading with them to help them, because apparently there is a book called Veritas that everybody who's read it has killed themselves, and the book is missing. No, they didn't say the book is missing. Do you remember what they said?
The translation has gone missing, and they had
The
some people
translation. I knew
come in to
something
try and
went-
translate
Oh, no.
it.
Yeah.
I think it was just more everyone who read the translation killed themselves, so they brought him in.
Except for one person.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted him to deal with it. The Doctor picks up Bill, who was in the middle of a date that had gone well enough that she had gotten that they were at her house, when she is, of course, scared off by the Pope. And after a little bit of complaining, they go with him to the Vatican's secret library, where they keep all these forbidden books. The Doctor apparently has a device which he is going to use to help him read the book. But before they can get there, first of all, they see a weird glowing portal with a bizarre skeletal monk-like being. And Then, approaching the book cage itself, they discover that somebody has been there. He pleads that he's already sent it out and leaves. The doctor gets a hold of the book, and the guy that has left promptly shoots himself. The doctor orders Bill and Nardole to investigate while he sits down and preps to read the book. They find the guy, he's dead, but before they can get back, they are unfortunately have to escape into a portal themselves, which lines up in this bizarre multi-tiered projector room. The doctor, before that, had discovered the fact that this man had emailed the copy of the book to CERN, the Scientific Research Institute, and they had replied back with "God help us." This is important because Bill and Nardole find themselves at CERN, where they're basically having their own little Heaven's Gate party, ready to end it all with an entire dining room filled with dynamite. When asked why, they give Bill and Nardole this thing called the shadow test. He taps a table, and every time he taps a table, they're to say a number, random number, the first one that pops into their heads. To their surprise, they say the same number. Everyone says the same number. Meanwhile, the doctor, while trying to read the book, has used the device to allow him to see temporarily at the expense of some of his own life. He is then attacked by one of these monks and is forced to escape with the laptop. And unfortunately, before he can read it, his sight goes out again, leaving him to stagger onward. Bill and Nardole promptly leave CERN before they destroy themselves. And back in this room, they realize the fact that these projectors are not just there to create the portals, they're creating the world outside. Nardole goes to stick his hand into one of these things, and it promptly de-reses. Full-on prawn de-res style. This, of course, worries Bill, who sees a small trail going through another portal, goes through, and discovers the doctor, who has read the book, knows about the shadow test, and basically reveals that they are all in a virtual world, a simulation created by these aliens to plot their invasion of Earth. Bill is, of course, shaken by this, but before she can really work it out, she is de-resed by one of these aliens, who confronts the doctor. They exchange words, but the doctor tricks him into basically revealing most of their plan, which then, using his sonic sunglasses, which he's using as kind of a sonar device to help see him, mails everything to the doctor in the real world. The doctor, getting this news, of course, prepares for war, tells Bill to have one last night out, and then asks Missy for help. Pretty much that's where we leave off this episode.
Okay. You did it in 5 minutes and about 4 seconds.
Just a little over, which is not bad because this is a very complex episode.
It's a very thick episode, yes.
Now, I believe we discussed this off there, and we are not going to make this a scoring night. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, this is very clearly a multi-parter.
Okay, so we are not going to score, but we are still going to do the rest of our normal review phase. And first thing we are going to talk about is the good aspects of the episode. And I am going to handicap you all by telling you what Tim thought first. He liked the overall meta-ness of this whole thing was handled in such a way that it didn't become a burden to the viewer's mind. Well, apparently the Guardian didn't agree, or the Mirror didn't agree to that.
The Mirror and someone else.
The Mirror doesn't agree with Jack.
The whole what is real and what isn't, and how not to deal with people in the reality of not being that, okay. Yeah, he gets kind of verbose on this. Let me see if I can read this a little closer. The whole what is real and what isn't, and how do not, okay, he also needs to take an English class here. How do not real people with the reality of not being real is presented in such a way that it's easy to swallow. I wish that sentence was. And after the episode is done, I reflected that even the real Doxer is still a simulation portrayed by an actor named Peter on a soundstage in Wales. Okay. Okay, done.
Think
That's
backwards.
what Tim thought about it. All right, Thomas, you're up next. What did you like about the episode?
God. It's actually quite hard to think about something, I must admit. I watched this episode twice, and I'm just trying to grab for something.
There's something basic about that you really liked.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm just gonna go with the fact that just the continuity of the Doctor still being blind, and just the
Okay.
fact that it's like still has to deal with that handicap the whole time.
I think we're going to wind up dealing with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if this was on one of the articles you read while I was gone or not, but apparently the original plan was that he was going to get his vision back at the end of Oxygen, and then Moffat saw it and he's like, no, I want to play with that for a while.
Because Tom Moffat's a dick.
Pretty much.
Peter's ridiculous, so I get to play a blind man for the second half of the season.
That kind of answers
Needed
my
Capaldi.
question about the episode.
All right, so Matt, how about you? What did you like about the episode
Like
overall?
in general. I actually really enjoyed the mind puzzle that slowly evolves in front of us and just seeing where the rabbit hole goes. It kind of reminds me very much of seeing The Matrix for the first time when I was like 15 or 16 years old. I'm just like, how deep does this go? Oh shit. Okay. And it also kind of reminds me of hints of Nightmare on Elm Street, where you're not sure what is really real and what isn't for a while,
All right,
which is always an interesting idea.
all right. Bill, how about you?
I'm not sure if this counts as the same thing or not, but I liked the air of mystery, the idea of you're really not sure what's going on, and depending on how discerning you are, you might get it when they're at CERN, or you might get it with Nardole, and you really don't want to believe it until, the doctor tells Bill, and that's when you absolutely know. And
Well, yeah.
I kind of like that whole, the whole air of mystery and of trying to figure it out.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the thing is, you kind of got the idea earlier that they were in a simulation, but you thought it was, somehow they had materialized in one, which was going to be kind of a, whoa, what, really? And then you discover, no, they're all simulations, and that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't seen that done for a while. I don't think I've seen that since some of the early Big Finish audios with Paul McGann, where you hear these two voices that you think are the Doctor and his companion, and I mean they sound like them, but then as the storyline goes on, you realize they're not the Doctor and companion, but they're two people that have somehow deluded themselves into thinking they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't seen that level of meta-ness in that for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of a layered approach.
Or even just the idea that so often in Doctor Who, when there's a mystery, the audience is shown the mystery. Like you see, like in so many episodes, like not necessarily like this, but invasions like this, you would see the monks skulking around. They don't know they're in a simulation, and you don't get any of that. You actually get to figure it out with the characters.
Yeah, and that's usually the best kind if you don't have to reveal it to anybody until the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The Daleks were notorious for doing that kind of thing. And so were the Cybermen, especially during the 80s. They only think we've allied with them, and we'll betray them at the first opportunity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron, how about you? What did you like about the episode?
I actually liked Nardole in this. I liked him quite a bit. Just the fact that he was, goofing around with Bill and, yo, yeah, I'm badass here. And then he, squeaks at the first sight of a dead body. And the way that he approaches the Doctor like he's a priest worshipping River Song. It's obviously kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to Moffat's own preference for River Song and the fact that I'm pretty sure Moffat is aware that a good chunk of the fan base hates River Song, and he's just twisting the knife in their back at this point. With that, and Naruto himself does come off a little naggy, kind of like how River Song could be sometimes, but not quite. I guess not quite getting under your skin the way that she could too. So
Naruto
he's a little
actually
bit
was
more
making me think
likable.
of K9 in this episode.
Yeah,
Because K9 is the first one to be like, "You're full of shit, Doc. You're full of shit, Master."
Actually, that would have been Romana. Romana
Okay.
would have been the first person to take the Doctor down a peg.
Okay,
he's
when
kind of-
Romana wasn't in the room, K9 was the first one to be negative.
yeah, he's coming off.
That
as
is not
the-
correct.
Yeah, he's kind of the I don't know. I want to say bold and brash, but he's kind of the almost the nanny, but not quite.
He's the butler that has the ability to talk back.
Exactly.
He's literally the Alfred to the Doctor's Batman.
Mhm.
And not, I mean, we're talking about the sarcastic, witty Alfred,
Mm-hmm.
not the very good Sir Alfred.
Mhm.
All right, so what I liked about this is I really liked the dialogue. For once, Moffat did a real bang-up job on the dialogue. I mean, you have Nardole comparing, what he's seeing there to things like Grand Theft Auto.
Mhm.
And the Doctor comparing it to Mario.
Yes, and I'm like, these are actual analogies that people would use in the real world. They're modern-day analogies that, we really haven't seen much from. And Mario's timeless enough that you see this episode 20 years from now, you're still going to go, oh yeah, Mario.
Oh yeah, Super Mario Brothers. Yahoo!
It's me, Mario.
Anyway,
So, but yeah, I thought the dialogue was especially very well done. I would also like to get a shout out for them casting a Pope that actually looks like Pope Francis. I mean, I'm serious. On my rewatch, I paused the episode, pulled up a picture of Pope Francis, and went, "Okay, yes, that's the freaking Pope."
I wasn't feeling that at first because all the pictures I've seen of Pope Francis before today were smiling, and this Pope never smiled. But then I saw the pictures of him with Trump, and he was the opposite of smiling, and then I could see the resemblance.
I thought you'd be crying.
I thought he'd be rolling his eyes like the Japanese ambassador. All right, so bad aspects of the episode. And we go first to Tim. Tim, he thought there was some missed opportunities, especially as far as the projector room, which led to, various places. It could have been more diverse, and that's really budget. Let's face it.
yeah, that's
We only got those 4 locations because they only had the budget for those 4 locations. There's probably, the projector rooms leading to most of the world's headquarters, like, Beijing, Moscow,
yeah.
everybody of importance, somewhere in Japan, somewhere, that kind of thing.
It would have been nice if they could go into Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, but that's a lot of money. I don't think they've ever managed to go into
Oh, no, I
Buckingham.
meant like a set, not on location.
Well, and they're introducing more countries in the next episode, such as China and Russia and all that. So we'll probably get a more worldly feel from that too.
And if the Doctor met the Queen, she probably would have had some sort of grudge against him and wanted to kill him.
Either that or just one of those moments where you realize that Queen Elizabeth II is unlike every other British queen. Knows of the Doctor and is amused. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so how about you, Thomas? What did you not like about the episode, or what did you like the least?
If I'm quite honest, and maybe this is just because, like, when I finally got to see the episode the whole way through, I already knew this, but honestly, the whole thing was a simulation. It was just kind of like, wow, really? Like, that's like, it's such a like, it's
Kinda
only
cliche.
like, it's not a nitpick because it, like, it's at least leading into something. This would be a much bigger issue for me if this was like a standalone episode.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, just the whole I think had I seen the episode without, like, catching the end bit first once, I probably I might have liked it a bit more, but still, it's just like, it seems like such a cliche thing to do at this point that it still kind of hindered it a bit for me.
All right. I think you might be alone on that because I actually kind of like the concept. But we'll see. Matt?
So here's something I had a little bit of an issue of, and this is me kind of nitpicking because there's not too much to actually nitpick just yet, but this is something that is obviously set in stone. So essentially, we see a lot of flashbacks in this episode of the Doctor being brought in for execution of Missy, and he's supposed to take care of everything. And essentially, these particular people are like big-time executioner types and all this, and they're used to death, etc., and so on and so on. But when he decides to spare Missy's life and just keep her captive, they start questioning his motives and methods, and literally the way the Doctor spooks them out by forcing them to just run away from him is telling them to look at his death count.
That was going to be my least favorite scene.
I actually like that scene, so...
It felt weak for executioners to be worried about a guy who's killed people, because these people are supposed to be killing people all the time, if they're actually executioners.
See, that's not my reasoning, so I'll get to that when we get to...
But yeah, there's other things to nitpick, but that's my particular overall nitpick, is that for a bunch of executioners, they're really skittish about one executioner for some reason. And it doesn't make it's a little bit of a logic leap, but I'm not sure what the connection was supposed to be there for Moffat, and that's the one thing that I saw was a flaw. Again, minor nitpick.
All right, so Bill.
I'm going to choose this just because it's the least fleshed out, and it's what's probably not going to be fleshed out, but I'm not necessarily going to say I hated it, and that is the whole section of the episode that was flashback, just because I don't think it was done as well as the modern day portion. Not that I think it was poor in a whole, but I think it was more average and more Moffat-y, whereas the modern day portion I think was more unique and higher quality.
Well, I do think that is actually going to get fleshed out a little by some of the rumors I've read. I haven't talked about them here because they're pure rumors.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
But they are a speculation on what's going to happen with the whole Doctor-Missy relationship. If what I've read in the rumors is true, the Doctor's really going to wind up regretting what he just... I'll just say that much. Aaron, what did you dislike about the episode overall?
I actually disliked the Doctor being blind.
Really?
I actually felt it. I could tell now, and once I think it was Bill mentioned that it was something that they wanted to continue with that was originally supposed to be cured at the end of the last episode. I can tell that it was tacked on here because it's just very overt, and any enemy worth a damn, or even an ally, like, how did the Pope not realize that the Doctor couldn't see? I mean,
yeah, there've been a few moments like that, actually.
So obvious. It's so obvious that he can't see that he's telling Nardo, like, Nardo, what's in front of me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's just like, oh man, maybe he should have been cured at the end of Oxygen because it's being done very ham-handedly here.
Can I just say, any doctor other than this one, I would agree with you. But I feel like so many of those actions are things that the 12th Doctor does even when he can see.
Tell me what's in front of me? No.
Not quite.
Well, I mean, he didn't literally say that, but it was, like, oh, why isn't the Pope here? He, I could see him doing that in past episodes while looking into the Pope's eyes and being like, oh, who's this fuck? Why isn't the Pope here? Like, dude, that is
I can't really see him doing that, but... And yeah, he was actually pretty overt. He was like, Nardo, what is, of course I can see what's in front of me, and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No, read the freaking paper in front of me, because I can't see it.
Now, I will say some of Nardo's lines when he was like, why, yes, that is an interesting glowing hole approximately 10 feet in front of you.
Or,
those were pretty ham-fisted. But
and Nardo is like, well, yeah, you won't be reading the Veritas without us because I'm going to be reading it for you, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of that. Nardo's lines were more ham-fisted, but no, I agree with Bill. I could have seen him looking at the Pope's eyes and go, "Well, why isn't the Pope here?" And Nardo going, "That is the Pope."
Yeah,
That's not Benedict.
Unless he was in disguise, I don't see him even doing that, really.
Oh, I couldn't see him doing that. Losing what particular year he's in? Oh, that's a very Doctor thing to do.
Except that he's been here a while.
Remember, this is the same incarnation that can't tell the difference between his current age and Matt Smith.
But no, I could see him going that's not Pope Benedict. And it's like, Pope Benedict stood down 5 years ago.
I'm actually kind of on Aaron with this one.
Yeah.
It's still a bit of a stretch.
Sorry, guys. I don't see it. And it's just, I just didn't think it worked here.
Hopefully the other ones will be a little bit better.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I actually do think this episode was written with blind in mind because it was part of the resolution. It was in there. It's just all of the lines that indicate that he's blind in this could easily be shunted in there. How would they have resolved it if he wasn't blind? I mean, that's actually written into the plot.
You mean using the sonic glasses? It would have just been sonic screwdriver sending something to the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, sending something, or he would have been wearing the glasses anyway. He's had sunglasses when he could see.
Or the glasses could have been on his desk, so all of a sudden he's in his office and he hears the glasses beep.
Or his sonic screwdriver gets smashed or something. And he's like, "Oh, I have the second glass slipper right here," and he flips out his sunglasses and sends the email through them still, even though he can see.
Okay, that actually brings a point to my mind. We saw his sonic screwdriver destroyed last episode, and he's been blind ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How did he build a new screwdriver?
He didn't. It was a hologram. Ta-da! That's a funny thing. A lot of
telepathic circuits.
Stuff in this.
All he has to do is think at the TARDIS or talk to the TARDIS, and it spits out a new one.
Also, didn't they destroy the sonic sunglasses earlier too?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's since these had time.
Yeah, but that's just like they destroyed the Sonic in the 80s, and he had a copy of an 80s Sonic earlier this season. So
yeah, he has Sonics now.
I'm pretty sure he just has a button he can press that spits out, a replicator that makes Sonics.
It's supposed to be just your regular old tool.
You know what? My mind went sideways on that, and I'm not even going to say it out loud because it went too sideways.
No, stop it, Bill. Your mind's
No. Now you have to say it.
I think it's bringing in the gutter.
Okay, because yeah.
Say it.
I was just thinking what River would do with a Sonic replicator.
Oh. There you go.
Oh, look, it's got 3 settings.
Yes.
Okay. So
Aha,
that is
Bill.
going to be my beef, because that did seem to be a continuity jar to me, was the sonic screwdriver, but you might be right there. Anyway, let's move on to best scenes. And first of all, Tim goes. And Tim's favorite scene was the one where the doctor was offered the chance to take confession, and he thought it was very tastefully done. It hinted at a respect for the beliefs of other people, even from one who is well-traveled as the doctor. He especially liked the scene as a Buddhist Catholic. And it honestly didn't affect me that much, but that's just... Thomas, what about you? What was your favorite scene?
I'd probably have to go. Oh God, let's see. Shit. Let's see.
There's so many of them.
Honestly, you know what? The whole scene where oh God, I can't even remember what the woman's name is. The woman that Bill's living with.
Oh,
Actually, I can't remember
was that
her
her
name
aunt or something like that?
I think
Something like
isn't
that.
it like Shireen or something?
Yeah,
Maybe.
something. So some sort of older adult that she's been living with for a while now.
Yeah, but like when Bill brings the other woman
Penny.
home, Penny home, and yeah, and like the whole, oh, I thought I told you not to bring guys home, and she like completely is oblivious to the fact that Bill's clearly
You know what I
interested
found
in this
interesting
woman.
about that scene? Every single time she says something, Bill makes a comment under her breath, but then she didn't want the girl she was on a date with to out her to whatever relationship, whoever she actually is. But she, I mean, it might have just been specifically because she didn't want to be revealed that she was on a date and, shenanigans might ensue. But
That as well, but there's, yeah.
I think actually her name was Moira.
that sounds right, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there we go. But yeah, the fact that she just wants her to remain clueless, because if she got a clue, she wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing.
I just mean I feel like the amount of comments she makes, she doesn't seem to be working very hard to keep it a secret.
Or she doesn't need to.
But anyway.
All right, Matt, how about you? Your favorite scene?
If I tell you to please stay behind me, is because I am actually here to actually protect you. I'm the only person here that's badass enough to be told in the entire galaxy that if I have to, I will take the doctor down. Are you some sort of secret badass or something like that? Something like that. Squeak!
Yeah.
Just that entire scene with Nardole and Bill, and it's just Bill trying to be, I don't need you to protect me, and Nardle's just sitting there going, no, I'm literally the tank here. No, please stop. And then finally has to sit there and talk her down about it, and then go on to even further express that he actually apparently does have express orders from River if he has to take down the Dr. Peg.
I do have to wonder, how robotic and how human is he? Because is he bulletproof? I mean, in the last episode, he either had to breathe oxygen or was a giant dick. I'm not sure which.
I would assume that he has apparently some sort of bio. I would assume he's at least a cyborg of some size.
Yes, I would definitely.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the ratio is.
Yeah, we're not sure about
Yeah.
the ratio. Maybe he does
Just
need
because-
oxygen. Don't know.
Yeah, his head needs oxygen, so he
His
may
head
not
needs
have
oxygen.
He may not have organic lungs, but he still needs access to oxygen in order
Yeah, in
to
order
keep
to
his
help the
head alive,
systems,
at least.
in order to help the systems run and probably keep his brain intact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
To keep his brain from going into
So
necrosis.
I would think
the
anything
oxygen.
below the neck would actually not be too lethal, but it could cause some damage.
It's obvious that this was done without the Doctor, because you realize that if the Doctor had to make Nardole, he would always be wearing clothes, because you from the neck down, he'd be a Cyberman. He would have just taken the head off a Cyberman and bolted on Nardole's head.
Got unnecessary
Oh,
systems. There you go.
For all we know, that is what's underneath Nardole.
that somebody
except
decided to close it up.
Except this was done by River Song, so...
Yeah,
I
apparently
don't know,
River
in,
has dressed him up a bit.
In Doctor
maybe.
Mysterio, didn't the Doctor say that he's the one who rebuilt him after his head got taken off?
Yeah, I was gonna
Supposedly.
say,
Supposedly,
the
but I wouldn't be
Doctor
surprised if
supposedly.
the River had a little bit of say in that too, since he was working for her.
Either that or Nardole has fallen apart and been put together a few times by now.
Also
Well,
possible.
we are going to see Cybermen, so that would be kind of an interesting reveal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Bill, your best scene.
I am probably going to go with the scene where the Pope has no idea what's going on, Bill's date has no idea what's going on, and Bill is just flipping pissed.
Yeah.
It's so typically
that's the
Doctor.
Pope. That's the Pope. Why is the Pope in my bedroom?
This is actually flashing back to series. I think it was series 8 with Danny Pink,
Mm-hmm.
where they're on that date that's crashing horribly,
Mm-hmm.
and freaking Orson Pink walks out into the restaurant,
Right.
Yeah.
and then Clara's just like, oh God, it's that same kind of exasperation. So it's almost a Moffat trademark in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of.
There's a lot of Moffatisms in this episode.
Yeah, well, it's written by Moffat. Not surprising.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, your favorite scene?
The one where Missy is like, I am your friend, without was it exception or without reward, without witness. I am your friend. Like she tries to swear so hard that she's, Doctor's friend, and I still kind of don't believe her.
She tries to Spock it.
Mm-hmm.
I have been and always shall be your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see where that goes.
Exactly.
Nowhere good.
And my favorite scene, as mentioned, will be the one that Bill has as his least favorite scene, is where the Doctor is basically look up the list of fatalities caused by, and that thing just starts scrolling like mad. I am the Doctor. I have killed a lot of people to get this title, and I deserve to be called that. And in a way, he has. But, you realize that, like, the first 4 billion names on that list is, like, Dalek A, Dalek B,
Right.
Dalek C, Cyberman A, Cyberman B.
Although you have to wonder if all of the Time Lords are still on the list or if they've been taken back off.
Everyone's still assuming that Gallifrey's dead. Otherwise, that's why they said that finding members of your species is really hard to come by. So people may be aware now that the Time Lords are not completely extinct, but they're assuming that Gallifrey is dead in the majority of them. So yes, he has probably the entire Dalek Armada and the entire planet Gallifrey on his list of the dead.
And the Armada is not going to go away because technically he did destroy the entire Armada.
Yes. Like I said, he has a fuck ton of Daleks on that list. By the time the guy ran, it still hadn't gotten through C, probably.
I'm pretty sure that by that list that guy was running, they still hadn't completely finished the Dalek list. It was still...
No.
Yeah, it might not have gotten to Dalek yet.
They were
It might have
still
been
in Cybermen.
Cybermen 000001, Cybermen 000002.
00001 all the way to 143.
I mean, like the first name on the list is Adric. I mean, that's obvious.
Ouch.
It's true, though. And the Doctor does hold himself responsible.
The Doctor does hold himself responsible because he wasn't able to get him off there.
We should get to Thomas, guys, or do we
Anyway,
already
yeah.
do Thomas?
We'll be going to worst scenes after this.
Okay.
But yeah, so I really liked that because it is the Doctor does have a huge thinks he's killed.
Yeah, I believe Thomas is before me, which means actually if it was after me, it would be you, Aaron, isn't it?
No, it's Tom. It's Thomas, you, Bill, Aaron, me,
Okay.
and Tim
So, yeah.
before all of you. Yeah.
I keep forgetting who's right after me.
Anyway. So going on to worst scene. Let's take a look at what Tim said. Least favorite scene, the scene where Bill just glitches out. He wasn't sure what caused it to happen at the moment. It was the guy behind him
Yeah.
doing the touch of death,
Apparently,
which
yeah.
apparently in the simulation just causes you to derez. Apparently this is some power they have because we did see it in the thing for next week doing it to people live. So
So yeah,
we'll
he
see what
must have
happens
just
there.
missed that. Oh
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas.
Let's see. It's kind of a few, but honestly, oh, God.
Choose
You know
one.
what?
There's four people after you.
I'm just gonna go with just because it's such like a cliche moment, the bit where Bill is all like, "Well, at least one person read and survived it," and then you just hear a gunshot. It's like kind of saw that, yeah, just like kind of saw that coming. Like whatever kind of impact someone killing themselves is supposed to have is just like used as a joke. So it's kind of like,
I would have actually been fond if they lampshaded it, where you just hear Bill start with at least "bam," and either Nardole or the Doctor goes a bit early. Just that moment of genre savvy, but that's me. Okay, Matt, how about you? Least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene. Actually, yeah, this is another one that kind of bugs me. So we see a portal open up before them and then suddenly close as they're heading towards the door, the book cage, and the cardinal, I think it was, suddenly just decides to stay back on his own, like he's actually gonna find out where that portal came from, because he's never seen portals down here before, and apparently he's been down here before. That was like the most boneheaded move ever, because obviously you're not gonna last long.
It's the every slasher film.
yeah.
Yeah, he's the basic dummy that stays behind and gets killed.
The thing is that they could have made his death more dramatic by having him actually go with the Doctor and hang with the Doctor, and then have a monk come up
there
and
could have been
kill
more to his actual death instead of just void opens up and he disappears into it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was, do I have any more purpose to this character? Nope, I don't.
Well, let's cut any more lines this actor could have. Yoink.
It could have actually built a lot of suspense. Have him standing next to the Doctor talking, and then all of a sudden you stop hearing him talk.
Oh yeah, that actually would have been a lot more creepy.
Doctor being blind is just like, Cardinal, where are you?
Or even just like him not actually showing what happens to him, and he just kind of never shows up again.
Yeah.
That as well. That's also another creepy way to go about it. And you just see the red
also,
robes,
yeah,
so
like
it's the
to
cardinal,
even
but
tie-
then they keep hearing silence, and it's like, okay, something's up, and then we see, along with the Doctor, that it's actually a monster.
Like, even to tie onto that, how did the Doctor not realize that something must have happened to him? Like, he's like, yes, it's you again. Wait, what? Like, you'd think the Doctor would know by now that something must have happened.
Like, I can see that happening, like the Cardinal standing next to him, the Cardinal dies and disappears without a word or a sound, and the Doctor assumes the Cardinal's still right there dressed in red, and he's got that blurry vision going on, so he turns and he's like, Cardinal, and then he looks up at the face, and the face is obviously that of the monster. He's like, oh, you're not who I was expecting.
Well, except for the whole blind thing.
Yeah, well, no, he would have his blurry vision after
that he was having at the time, yeah.
Electrocuted himself, yeah. So.
All right. Let's see. Bill, okay, we were waiting for this one.
Yep. So you already know what scene, so I'm going to explain my rationale for it. And there's basically two reasons. One is that the Doctor, in general, is not the type of character who glories over the amount of death he's caused. He grieves for it. So the fact that he would be proud of it in this circumstance,
I'm not really sure that he's proud of it. He's talking to them in a way that they would understand. These are people that do calculations by deaths. It's really the only language they understand.
as a weapon against them, essentially.
He is using it as a weapon because it's one of the few he has.
There's also the fact that he went through that entire arc, which was one of the better parts of series 5 and 6, to the point where, he realized that braggadocio was not helping him and it was rallying enemies against him, and he was going to stop, making those kinds of lines and scaring everybody away because it was only going to make things worse. And here he's back doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Again,
it is kind of doubling back.
No, you see, the thing that I don't like, and actually, hold on. There's Aaron's first, so we'll go with Aaron.
What's my worst?
Yeah.
Let me see here. I actually did not like the scene at CERN. I felt that it could have been edited down a little bit more to make it a little bit more dramatic, a little bit tighter in the storytelling. It feels like maybe it was just the way that it was kind of cut up, because I believe it was the CERN scenes were interspersed, I think, with the Doctor confronting the monks really for the first time after he has just electrocuted himself and he's running down the hallway and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I also thought their method of death was ham-fisted too. Oh, let's get a whole bunch of dynamite and put it under the table.
Right, especially these are the people that are running the Large Hadron Collider. You'd think they could do something more dramatic.
Yes.
And the most
Also, if they're going to wire it up with TNT in an episode with the Rockstar Doctor, get the license to AC/DC.
yeah.
Also, the most ham-fisted, cartoony-looking dynamite ever.
Yes.
It literally was. All it needed was
the most
letters that said
the most
TNT.
cartoony looking, it would have said Acme on it.
No. If it was the most
TNT also
cartoony,
works.
it would have been a black metal-like ball with a fuse on it.
Cherry bomb.
We're going to
bigger.
blow up Moose and Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. It would look like a bomb from Spy vs. Spy. That would have been the worst of the cartoony. But yeah, all those things needed were the little black letters that said TNT.
Spy vs. Spy, the only game I've ever played where dropping a bucket of water on your head results in insta-death.
Okay. So the scene I like the least is also in that flashback thing, and it's the scene right before the one that was my favorite scene. And that's the one where the Doctor goes through all this, kayfabe kills Missy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they try to pick her up. She's like, oh, watch it. I'm like, seriously? You could have just gone with them and you could have gotten away with it? And instead you go out and you blurt this bit out and completely have to waste everything that just happened. I mean, if you're going to do that, the Doctor just could have grabbed you and frickin' swanned off. Yeah. And instead, we had to go through all this.
Well, she has to be the center of attention. She's Missy.
She also, by doing that, she also alienates the Doctor. Notice how just by doing that, she gets the executioners to turn against the Doctor. And then when they find out about the Doctor's
just a bonus.
Well, yeah, and then when they find out about his death toll, they run away from him. So he's abandoned and alone once again.
Yeah, and I'm really thinking that
except for Monardo.
That scene is basically he went back to that because he had to improvise that scene. Or that the bit with the death toll, because the fact that his plan was to wait till they were done and just swan off with her. But he had to freaking ruin it, so he had to come up with some plan to keep him from getting killed too.
I have to say, the more I think about Missy, the more I wish that she would end just one scene like that by saying, "Look into my eyes. You've already killed me. You can go." because that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
one master thing that she doesn't do.
Yeah, that's the one master thing that
Just
is not constant right now.
Actually,
Is her
The
hypnotizing
only
somebody.
one that really had that power enough was the original master, the Delgado. Ainley tried it a few times, but was nowhere near as successful as Delgado.
He didn't usually solo it himself.
I have to
He
say
usually
I've
used
only
aids.
I've only seen about half of the Ainley episodes. I know that the Beavers one in Big Finish does it a lot, and they're supposed to be the same incarnation. But I haven't watched all of Ainley's on-screen episodes to be able to judge that. And of course, the Eric Roberts Master did it during his one story.
True, but the Eric Roberts Master had several things that were fucked up about it. Because he had that whole spitting venom style shit stuff going on.
Yeah, he was a weird amalgamation.
Okay, so we got 10 minutes left.
Yep.
Let's do
Final
our
thoughts and
final thoughts.
predictions.
Yep. Tim, his final thoughts. He gave a rating, but we're not rating, so I'm not going to give that. He thought this was a very well-made episode that dealt with some heavy themes and managed not to be overwhelmed by those themes. The religion angle was nicely handled. On a side note, he noticed that this episode makes it seem as though Missy is in the vault. On one hand, we'd actually see her put in. On the other hand, a lot can happen in 1,000 years. The doctor actually talks to her in the vault and calls her Missy. So, where it's pretty much we know it's Missy in the vault.
And he tells her that he's blind, even though that was one of Nardle's major concerns, was that if he got injured, Missy might find out.
Well, the thing is, he's been also dealing with Missy behind Nardle's back.
True.
So there might have been some level of trust built up. But again, I think that's going to turn around and bite him in the ass.
Yeah.
Okay,
She's going to be like, look over there.
So your final thoughts, Thomas?
I think like watching it the first time round, it was kind of iffy and just, I don't know, I didn't think too highly of it. Watching it through the second time, I think I appreciate it more as just kind of the prelude to events to come. So it's like, the fact that it's a starting point, I'm a bit more lenient.
Yeah, well, we can't really rate it. That's why we're not going to do that tonight.
Yeah.
Any predictions?
Honestly, not really.
Okay. Matt, your thoughts?
My thoughts. It's hard to completely judge this right now. A lot of the stuff we saw actually didn't really happen, but they happened in a simulation. So a lot of it, the iffy stuff can actually be forgiven for the most part, but not all of it. Also, because this is multi-part, we really do have to see where this goes before any final judgments. But it seems to have an interesting build-up. Hopefully, it actually goes somewhere. As for predictions, obviously Missy's going to get let out of the vault. I think she might actually be helpful for this next part of the story, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm also kind of the opinion that she'll instantly also become a bit of trouble.
All right. And Bill?
Okay. Well, as we mentioned, it's the first part, so definitely no judging. I do think that this bit with the simulation is sort of the heaven sent of this story, in the sense that the simulation is going to be done with. It's kind of set up our conflict, and that's, the actual conflict is going to be the rest of it. I do think that the doctor, realizing, all the simulations that they've run, is going to decide, hey, Missy is the wild card that they can't possibly have fully predicted. And if they've run simulations against me, but their simulations against Missy won't work, and that's how I'm going to try and beat them. And that's really my main prediction about this arc. I guess that's about it that I have to say at this point.
Okay. Aaron?
All right, so I think this is definitely a must-see episode for this season. I believe that Rand actually mentioned something about the TARDIS not translating the Pope, and I think given the amount of
I'd forgotten about that.
Yep, the amount of interest and impact, and it's basically the whole direction of the episode is about translation and language and stuff like that, with the Veritas at least. And I think that's actually going to be one of the things that pop up in the following episodes, is the fact that the monks don't understand how the TARDIS translates language, or the fact that it does translate language. They either overpass that, or they don't quite understand how the TARDIS works. They just know that it's like they treat it like a spaceship that happens to fly through space. Because we don't really see it travel through time in this either. So we don't know how much the monks know about the TARDIS and how it functions, and I'm wondering if that's going to play a part.
All right. So my final thoughts is I actually did very much like this episode. I liked the twist in it. There was not a lot I didn't like about the episode. I even liked the flashbacks to a partial extent, with the exception of the scenes I mentioned. The acting was very well done. The dialogue was very witty. And most of the direction and special effects all looked very good. So there's not much I have to say against this episode. I cannot predict much because, this really didn't get us into the story like a normal bit. It's more like a prologue, too. But I do think that both Bill and Aaron are right. While they've taken simulations throughout history, what they have now is basically a snapshot of what they've seen. They don't know they obviously haven't gotten certain details right, and they've made assumptions based on not having those details, and those are going to bite them in the ass. But the real detail is what's in the vault, and it's going to be a very special. Missy's going to get you, I think, and I don't know. It's not going to bode well for the Doctor, I think, because we already know it's going to be a bad half season for him. And really, that's all we have to say about Extremis. We will go in further detail with the pyramid at the end of the world. And that's probably also going to be a non-scoring round, as this is a 3-part episode.
Right in the middle of the season.
So, Bill, would you care to take us out?
Okay, yep. So if you enjoyed listening to us, please like the video. Let it so we know how you feel. And you can go ahead and subscribe to us on twitch.tv/Unearthly Podcast, so you can catch our live streams as they happen, or at an Unearthly Podcast on YouTube, where you can catch our uploads as soon as they are exported to YouTube. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for news and updates. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right, next week's show, the invasion begins, and apparently it starts in the middle of a 3-way rumble. Things will get weird as a pyramid appears from nowhere, and the pyramid at the end of the world. Written by Peter Harness and Stephen Moffat, and starring Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, and Matt Lucas as Nardole. See you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.